Hello everyone, welcome to Apti Plus Academy for Civil Services. It's a video on monthly policy review, also known as MPR, which is released by the PRS Legislative Research. And I'll be discussing MPR for the month of October. Whatever news that was reported for the entire month, actually the edition come on the 1st of November. तो जितने भी न्यूज़ रिपोर्ट किए गए हैं अक्टूबर के मंथ में उसके कुछ इंपॉर्टेंट न्यूज़ को डिस्कस करेंगे, understanding its significance from the exam perspective and giving you the minute details that is essentially required both for the prelims and mains. So without any further ado, let's get started with each news and bill that was reported in MPR, monthly policy review, which is released by the PRS Legislative Research. So among them, the first is a draft digital personal data protection bill. दिस इज़ देयर इन लाइमलाइट. काफ़ी डिस्कशन हुई है इसको लेकर के, जिस तरह से अभी हाल के दिनों में वी हैव बीन विटनेसिंग द पार्ट ऑफ डीप फेक. अगर बात करें डीप फेक की, द केसेस हैज़ बीन रिपोर्टेड विद सेलिब्रिटी एंड देयर आर सम अदर केसेस दैट इज ऑल्सो देयर विद रिगार्ड्स टू AI फ्रॉड एंड अदर पार्ट. सो गवर्नमेंट हैज़ कम अप विद द स्ट्रॉन्ग डिजिटल पर्सनल प्रोटेक्शन बिल जिसके प्रोविजंस काफ़ी स्ट्रिक्ट किए गए. So what was this all about? Actually, Ministry of Information and Technology, we call it MEIT, right? MEIT has actually invited comments on the draft of Digital Personal Data Protection Bill 2022. Now this become very important both for prelims and mains. Direct सवाल पूछे जा सकते हैं आपसे prelims और mains में. Mains में analysis point पे ज़्यादा सवाल होंगे, and for prelims there can be two statement factual questions. Now, what was the main purpose for this draft? The bill seeks to provide the protections of digital personal data and set up a data protection board. So DPB, this is a data protection board which will be established in India, and this body will look into the part of important grievances, mechanism and even the implementation of the data protection bill. तो अगर बात करें DPB की, ये भी आपके एग्जामिनेशन के लिए काफ़ी ज़्यादा relevant. Now, what are the key features? First, we'll look at the applicability of this particular bill. कहाँ पे ये apply होंगी? The bill will apply to the processing and of digital personal data within India. So, specifically, the part of the ambit will be there within India. और ये data कहाँ पे implement होगी? Where the actual data is collected, whether it is online, collected offline, which is digitalized, right? So, these are the part where this applications of the bill will be actually invoked. Now, the bill will apply with the possessions of the personal data outside India if it is offering goods and services. अगर goods और services दी जा रही हैं, goods and services is there outside India, then this will be taken into consideration. So this is a minute point that you can take into consideration. Now, personal data की definition की अगर बात करें, personal data किसे कहते हैं? It's defined as any data of an individual who is identifiable by or in relations to such data. Any data that an individual own, grown and even is linked to him can be considered as a personal data. Now, processing is term में क्या है? What does the processing mean as per the key feature of the bill? It says and defined as an automated operations and set of operations on a personal digitalized data, which include the collection part. This is one. Second, we have storage. Third, use and event sharing. So this is how the term processing is actually defined under the bill. Now, the other part of the key feature include the consent. Consent is something which is very important. If you look at the part of the Supreme Court judgment, अगर Supreme Court की judgment की बात करें, even the important judgment which were there by K.S. Puttaswamy, तो वहाँ पे भी actually इसकी बात की गई है कि personal data must be taken into consideration, right? And the privacy is important. So personal data may be processed only for the lawful purposes which an individual give his consent. Subject to consent. Consent is something which has been with the topmost priority under the bill. The consent will be deemed to be given in a specific cases, including the performance of any functions under the law, provision of the services benefited by the state. तो कौन सी चीजों में जरूरत पड़ेगी? There is medical emergency. This can be there. Employment purposes, ground on the public interest such as fraud preventions, information security and credit scoring. So this is how where the services or the state can look into the part of the consent, even necessarily not required यहाँ पे उनकी consent की जरूरत पड़ेगी, because these are the part of important services which state on their behalf can take actions. Now, rights of data principal की अगर बात करें, if you look at the data principal, and this is something which is an important topic for means, किस तरह से data principal की चीजें applicable होंगी and how, what are the rights. So the person whose data is being processed will have a right to the following, which are those. The first is to important attain the part of confirmability or the confirmations about the processing and summary of the data which is processing activities that is undertaken. कोई भी ऐसा data कोई individual की उसकी processing हो रही है, किसी जगह पे data sharing हो रही है, so the consent part is mandatory there, right? Now seek corrections and erasers, there the right of personal data or data principal is applicable. Nominate other person to exercise right in the event of death of incapacity and for the grievance redressal. So when it comes to the right of data principal, the applicability will goes on. Now obligations of data fiduciaries की अगर बात करें, कौन से entities होंगे that will be taken into consideration for the purpose and means for data processing. ये data fiduciary ऐसे होते हैं जो कि data को process करते हैं and even they go for a specific purpose what that data actually meant for. It provide notice about the data to be collected for purpose of processing. Reasonable efforts की जाती है ताकि वो ensure कर सके accuracy with the completeness of data. So they are completely the aggregator, right? You can call it the aggregators, and build reasonable security to prevent the data breach, inform the data protection board, and even affect person in the event of breach. Now, in certain cases, the personal data may be taken for the meat and retention is not necessary for legal or businesses purposes. So these will be the obligations of the data fiduciaries. Basically, जो भी important provisions हैं data protection bill 2022 के, वो provisions मैं आपके साथ discuss करूँ. Now, moving ahead, the National Bioenergy Performance. This is something which is better known as NBP program, which aims to ensure that bioenergy should be given the topmost priority to reduce the carbon emissions and the carbon footprint. Now, Ministry of New and Renewable Energy ने actual devise out किया है that they have come up with the National Bioenergy Program between the period for 2021 till 2025. So this is the time period upon which the implementations will take place. The program is proposed to be implemented in 2 phases. So this is the 2-phase program which will be implemented and call for more robust approach. और इसमें phase 1 में basically 858 करोड़ रुपीस की allocation है. This amount might not be relevant for you, but आपको एक basic idea होना चाहिए कि किस तरह से government investment कर रही है. This provide for financial assistance to developers such as the direct transfer, interest-free loan and subsidies. So this together is in the total budgetary outlay, right? Now, Indian Renewable Energy Development Authority Limited की बात करें, they have been implementing agencies for waste to wealth energy and biomass programs. So IREDA, what does the term stand? That is the Indian Renewable Energy Development Agency Limited. तो ये आपके examination point of view से भी relevant. Now, इस scheme की sub schemes क्या क्या? There are 3 important sub schemes. The first is waste to energy program. Second is the biomass program, and third is the biogas program. Now, waste to energy, I think with the name it is evident, ये financial support करेगी, where waste to energy project for generation of biogas, biocompressed natural gases, and power plant for urban and agriculture, and even the agriculture waste reduce. तो ये कुछ important scheme है जहाँ waste to energy बनाने की कोशिश की जाएगी. See, for this budget also government has actually come up with lot more other scheme. जैसे एक scheme है गोबर्धन, right? गोबर्धन is a one scheme which is also working towards the same. Now, looking into the other part, that is the biomass production. So, या biomass programs की बात करें, the scheme will be setting up of the briquette, that is the compostable biomass material, and even the pellet manufacturers will be there for the promotions of biomass. जैसे on biogas भी कहते हैं, which will be based on the congregations of the industries project. And third, that is the biogas program. इस program के अंदर it will be provided with the biogas plant, जहाँ पे rural areas में biomanure obtain किए जाएंगे for the farming practices. So this will be a kind of a sustainable or natural farming method that will be used. The financial assistance will be credited to the developer bank account for completing and commercializing the biogas plant. अगर एक बार ये commercialize हो गई तो उनकी subsidies या जो benefits हैं वो beneficiaries के account में through DBT transfer की जाएंगे through the direct benefit transfers. Now moving ahead, India's long-term low emissions development strategy 2027, something again important which at COP27 India has set target, और COP28 की अगर बात करें जो कि स्टार्ट होने वाली है UAE दुबई में, so this is there at UAE, the things will be more important for India. Now recently India has submitted its long-term emissions development strategy at UNFC, और ये 27th कॉन्फ्रेंस ऑफ पार्टी शर्म अल शेख जो इजिप्ट में हुई थी उसको ध्यान में रखते हुए सारी चीज़ें की गई हैं, एंड इट विल बी गिविंग मोर रोबस्ट अप्रोच टू इंडिया टुवर्ड्स द क्लाइमेट सस्टेनेबिलिटी. क्या की फीचर्स है? फर्स्ट इज द यूटिलाइजेशन ऑफ रिसोर्सेज. सी वॉट एवर पार्ट दैट इज बिंग यूटिलाइज्ड उसकी रैशनल यूटिलाइजेशन की बात की गई है. फर्स्ट एंड द फॉरमोस्ट इज द रैशनल यूटिलाइजेशन ऑफ द नेचुरल रिसोर्सेज विद ड्यू रिगार्ड्स टू एनर्जी सिक्योरिटी. ये ऐसी यूज हो जहाँ पे जो एनर्जी की ज़रूरतें हैं वो भी पूरी हो, एंड विल प्रोवाइडिंग एनर्जी सिक्योरिटी टू द कंट्री. The transitions from the fossil fuel will be undertaken in just smooth, sustainable and inclusive manner. You already know that India has actually given the target that by 2070 we will be achieving the net zero emissions, और बहुत सारे ऐसे targets हैं जो India 2030 तक achieve करने वाली. Now coming to the transport sector, this will be the use of electric vehicles in some cities like metropolitan cities like Delhi, Hyderabad. They have been already coming up with electric vehicles. Bangalore की बात करें वहाँ पे already इस तरह के vehicles चल रही हैं. Biofuels especially for the ethanol blending, or ethanol blending in petrol E20 are there. Many of the vehicles, specifically two-wheelers में ऐसे vehicles हैं जहाँ पे ethanol blending already applicable है. Green hydrogen fuel is also there, and this will also call for the carbon emission reductions in the transport sector. India की कोशिश है कि 20% की जो ethanol blending है that is there by 2025, and this will be shift in the public transport. बहुत सारे अभी engines जो है that is coming capability with the part of E20 ethanol use, तो ये सारी target गवर्नमेंट की 2025 है कि उसकी पूरी final implementations हो पाए. Now urban development will drive the smart city initiatives integrated with innovation, solid liquid waste management and effective green building codes. And the other important target under the emissions target is to look into the part for industrial sector. So the low carbon development transitions will be there in the industrial sector that should not impact the energy security, energy access and employment. So this thing will be also taken into consideration, or the focus है government की that is on improving the energy efficiency, right? In terms of energy efficiency, government is looking for also high level electrifications with the relevant processes, enhancing the material efficiency, recycling the leading of the expansion and circular economy. Now the second important component is transitions to the low carbon development. The transitions to low carbon development will involve several cost of development of new technologies, new infrastructure and other transitions cost. Now provisions of climate finance by the developed countries will have a significant and need to provide enhanced form of government with the concessional loan predominantly for the public resources. So this is how the part of the low emissions target which India has set will be an achievable one. Now moving ahead, e-waste management rule 2022. I have already made a discussions on our daily news and editorial analysis several occasions about the e-waste management. Now through this, I'll be looking into some specific features of this management rule. So the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, जैसे MOEF भी कहते हैं, they have been coming up with the rules, and this will replace the e-waste management rule of 2016, right? And this is actually under the Environment Protection Act of 1986. तो ये कुछ vital information है prelims के लिए. The rules will provide the details of the management of e-waste. And e-waste, what does the e-waste mean? I think most of you are familiar with this term. It refers to the electronics and electrical equipments, that is including the solar photovoltaic modules, panels, cells and discarded waste. So these electronic waste, even the part of computers, components and other electronic equipments which is there will be taken into consideration under the definitions of e-waste. नाउ एप्लीकेबिलिटी की अगर बात करें इस रूल की, किस जगह पे ये एप्लीकेबल होगी, नाउ दिस बिकम इम्पॉर्टेंट फॉर एग्जामिनेशन स्पेसिफिकली। कई बार टू स्टेटमेंट सवाल में आपको इस तरह के स्टेटमेंट मिलेंगे इसकी एप्लीकेशंस को लेकर के। सो द रूल विल बी एप्लीकेबल टू द मैन्युफैक्चरर्स, प्रोड्यूसर्स, रिफर्बिशर, dismantler and recycler involving in managing that include the manufacturing, sell, recycle and refurbish of the e-waste. These entities will be required to registered on an online portal जो कि सेंट्रल पोल्यूशन कंट्रोल बोर्ड के अंदर होगी। इट्स इंपॉर्टेंट एंड पावरफुल बॉडी। यहाँ से भी यूपीएससी ने प्रीलिम्स एग्जामिनेशन में, सीएससी के एग्जाम में एंड फॉर मेनी अदर एग्जाम लाइक सीडीएस या फिर सीएपीएफ के एग्जाम में सवाल पूछते रहे, तो आपको सेंट्रल पोल्यूशन कंट्रोल बोर्ड के बारे में भी देखना जरूरी है। The rule come into force from 1st of April 2023. And looking at the other key features of the e-waste management, first is the responsibility of different entities. So जो अलग-अलग entities होंगे, चाहे वो manufacturers हो, producers हो, and the recycler will have certain part of responsibility they will have to execute it. First, at the manufacturers, they have to ensure the collections and recycle of the disposable e-waste which is produced during the manufacturing of electronics or electrical equipments, right? जो producer की responsibility होगी, that will be there at electricals and electronic equipments meeting certain targets for the e-waste recycle. So the targets which is actually there has to be met by all these three stakeholders. And third is the recycler that ensure that recycling facilities and processes in line with the standard of the Central Pollution Control Board, and material not yet recycled in the facility has to be sent to the recycler again. So this is how the complete foolproof executions of this particular rule will be applicable pan-India. Now reducing the use of hazardous substances, खास करके अगर बात करें इस रूल के अंदर, तो स्टैंडर्ड ऑपरेटिंग प्रोसीजर्स या फिर जो स्टैंडर्ड फॉर द प्रोड्यूसर्स है फॉर इलेक्ट्रॉनिक्स एंड इलेक्ट्रॉनिक्स इक्विपमेंट्स विल रिड्यूस द hazardous substance in their equipment. Now these include the new equipment that is produced and not like contain some element which is detrimental to human health, that include lead, mercury, cadmium and hexavalent chromiums. जो सेंट्रल पोल्यूशन कंट्रोल बोर्ड है वो एक रैंडम सैंपल साइक्लिंग करेंगे, मींस दे विल बी लुकिंग इनटू द सैंपल पार्ट and equipped to market to monitor the compliance of the reductions of the hazardous substance. तो basically जिस भी आर्टिकल्स में जो इलेक्ट्रॉनिक इक्विपमेंट्स हैं उनमें लेड, मर्क्यूरी, कैडमियम और हेक्सावेलेंट क्रोमियम होंगे, that will be banned. So this need to be banned to ensure that they are not detrimental to environment, neither detrimental to the human health. Now there will be a steering committee. This will be under the chairmanship of CPCB, that is the Central Pollution Control Board. यहाँ से आप prelims में multiple choice questions भी expect कर सकते हैं. The members of the committee include the representations from the various environment ministries and climate change, electronics and information technology, and new and renewable energy. So 3 ministries will be coordinating in terms of the steering committee. It will provide for more representations from the electrical and the electronic equipments, from the producer and manufacturer association, e-waste recycler and other association. So the steering committee is actually a powerful committee that will have an amalgamation of other important ministries, ensuring that the implement is there at the fullest, ensuring the part जहाँ पे जो rule है applicability है इस rule की वो पूरी की जा सके. Now moving ahead, the framework for the sovereign green bond SGB, commonly known as SGB, and UPSC has already asked questions with regards to the green bond, sovereign green bond several times in the prelims examination. तो उस context में ये topic important है और we'll see what is the sovereign green bond, उसके क्या framework है with the recent changes proposed by the Union Government. So the Ministry of Finance has issued the framework for the sovereign green bond. So by name it suggests that this is something which ensure for the sustainability of the environment and even for the part of financing. तो इसके थ्रू फंड रेज की जाएगी दैट कॉल फॉर इन्वेस्टमेंट इन द एनवायरमेंटली सस्टेनेबल एंड क्लाइमेट सूटेबल प्रोजेक्ट. दिस इज नॉट ओनली प्रिसाइजली इन इंडिया, अगर ग्लोबल लेवल पे भी बात करें इस तरह की सोवरेन ग्रीन बॉन्ड के कॉन्सेप्ट एक्चुअल में सक्सेस रहे हैं. इफ यू टेक द कंट्री एग्जाम्पल लाइक सिंगापुर, Japan, these are the country which has been using this fund to increase the sustainability of the environment. Now moving ahead with the key features, fund की utilizations की अगर बात करें, utility की बात करें, the proceeds that will be raised will be used in the green bonds, and that will be subject to the refinance expenditure for the eligible green projects. अब कौन-कौन से projects हैं जो eligible होंगे? First and foremost is the renewable energy, which include solar, wind, biomass और hydropower. ये चारों component वहाँ पे applicable होंगे. Then second we have the clean transport. Third is the climate change adaptations, sustainable water and waste management, and preventions of the pollutions control and their measures. So ऐसे कोई भी projects जो इन 4-5 चीज़ों पे काम कर रही है, उनकी applicability उस fund में utilizations के लिए की जाएगी. Now, project selections and the funding. So, Green Financing Committee will be there. That will be looking into the part for the implementation of fund ki diversifications ke liye. This will be under the Ministry of Finance, and this will look into the part for the fund allocations. This will be chaired by the CEA, that is the Chief Economic Advisor under the Ministry of Finance. और सारी चीजें actually जो committee बनेगी, जो ministries में होंगी, that will include the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, Ministry of New and Renewable Energy, and Niti Aayog is also a part of it. Now, reporting the framework, this will be also taken care by the annual report. Annual report release की जाएगी, and this report will have all the details about the investors. जो list of allocations of proceeds हैं, जो tax expenditure है, उसके बारे में details होंगी. Descriptions and the status of the project finance, and expected impact of the projects in the qualitative indicators. So this is how the reporting framework will actually take place. Now, the other topic is the National Suicide Prevention Strategy. 15th September, September is actually considered as the Suicide Awareness Month. Just to correct, the entire month of September is taken as a month where the suicide prevention is taken into consideration. इसमें preventions की बात की जाती है. So recently the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare has released the National Suicide Preventions to address the issues. ये एक ऐसी टॉपिक है जो आपको जनरल स्टडीज के पेपर 1 में भी इससे सवाल पूछे जा सकते हैं, and even for general studies paper 4 in the ethics. So make sure you take a note of some important findings. According to the ministry, suicide is leading to the cause of death among the individual aged between 15 to 29. This is the age group upon which this was reported. Now, National Mental Health Policy already Government of India ने रिलीज की थी 2014 में, जिसमें destigmatizations of mental issues की बात की गई है, and the strategy look for overall reductions in the suicide mortality by 10%. 10% से reductions की बात की गई है by 2030 from the 2020 target, that is 11.3%, 1 lakh populations. Now, क्या key features हैं इस particular strategies के जो government ने actually devise out किया है? So first is to reinforce the institutional capacity for suicide preventions. We need to work on the mechanism, right? एक institutional setup की ज़रूरत पड़ेगी जो कि इन सारी चीज़ों को monitor करे. Second is strengthening the health services. So there we also need the psychiatrists, the health mental specialists, so that they can have a counseling session as well. Increasing the community and societal support for suicide preventions, and improving the collections of data on suicide. So definitely not only the union government, this is not the sole duty or responsibility of union, it is also the duty of the state government to make a proper policies in this regard. And moving ahead with other news, that is the draft aircraft security rule, something important that called for more robust approach in the aircraft security. So let's see the details coming out from this. Ministry of Civil Aviation has invited the comments on the draft aviation security 2022 that comes under the Aircraft Act 1934. This draft rule seeks to replace the Aircraft Rule 2011. The rule provides for designing and implementations of the security measures at aerodromes. Now, what are the key features? Use of private security agencies. This is the one. The second is the private security personnel authorized by the Director General engaged in ensuring the security, and the personnel will be trained as per the prescribed standard of the aviation security and training. Now, why it is important? Because in General Studies paper 3, जो infrastructure की sections है वहाँ पे aviations की भी बातें कही गई हैं. So that is the reason this particular bill become important for you, or rule become important for you. Now, applicability की अगर बात करें, this will be applicable through all aircraft in India, aircraft registered in India, person on aircraft operated by someone who is permanently resident of India, or his or her principal place of business is there in India. This rule will expand to certain categories like the person on aircraft registered in India, aircraft that are over India and in person in these aircraft, and aircraft operational by some who is permanently resident of India and the principal based business in this country, right? So this is how the applicability of this rule will actually be there. Now, power of the commissions transfer to DG, that is the Director General. Rule 21 empower करती है Commissioner of Bureau of Civil Security, right? Civil Aviation Security is a powerful body that look into the power part of the overall security for the operations. And this will ensure that security in the aircraft and aerodromes are taking place. Some of the important functions of the DG will include establishing and maintaining of the National Civil Aviation Security Program, coordinating activities between the department and designating authorities at aerodromes, implementing the security controls and procedures. And the last part is the Director General of BCAS. The draft rule also says that the BCAS will carry out this function, which include the rules to specify additional functions for the DG, such as arranging the security audits, carrying out the risk assessment. So these are some of the important functions which will be taken care under the aviation security rule. And this was all about for the PRS discussion for the month of October. If you have any other concern, queries about test series, admissions, programs, you can reach out to us. We'll be more than happy to assist you. For time being, I'm signing off. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for staying connected.